Hello everyone! It was a pretty wild day yesterday at the World Rapid Championship, and the results after 5 rounds are extremely interesting. I will get back to that after I show you this game. This is a game from round 5. You've seen that Magnus Carlsen started the tournament with a loss against the Boo, his old nemesis, but here he faces Rustam Kasimdzhanov, Grandmaster from Uzbekistan. He was FIDE World Champion from 2004 to 2005 after Ruslan Ponomariov. He was a long time second to Vishwanathan Anand. He also trained Sergei Karakin and Fabiano Caruana, so a great player himself, and he helped create a lot of great players. Here he faces Magnus Carlsen, and Carlsen has the white pieces, and this is one of the good things with lower time controls, Rapid and Blitz. You will often see an E4 game followed by some interesting variations. So Carlsen plays E4, Kasimdzhanov goes C5, the Sicilian defense. Knight to F3, we have E6, D4, C captures, knight captures, and knight to C6, the Taimanov variation. Knight to C3 and queen to C7, the Bastrikov variation of the Taimanov. Nd4, immediately Carlsen lashes out with the pawns. We have A6, preparing B5, also preventing any of the knights to jumping to B5, and H4 by Carlsen. B5, we have knight to C6, capturing, D captures on C6, and queen to F3. And here E5 is played, which is a good move. Maybe another option, since Carlsen started very aggressive in the opening. Maybe a move like B4, for example, after knight B1, C5, maybe prepare bishop to B7 and go after the E4 pawn. But Kasimdzhanov goes for a different idea. He plays E5. And Carlsen continues to push the pawns, G5, and of course Kasimdzhanov will not castle king's side. Bishop to E6, we have bishop to H3, Kasimdzhanov exchanges bishops, bishop captures, rook captures, and bishop to C5 now. Bishop to D2, Carlsen prepares the queenside castle. We have queenside castle by both players, and F6 now. We have H5 and F captures on G5, and bishop captures on G5. Now there's a double attack on the rook on D8. Rook captures on D1, knight captures on D1, and queen to D7. Pressuring the rook on H3, also placing the queen on a nice open D file. Queen to B3, and this was already an interesting move, but it's the rapid. You don't really have time to find a move like queen to c3. Queen to c3 attacks the dark square bishop and the e5 pawn. And after you prevent this, then comes queen to a3, threatening the a6 pawn to capture it with check, and queen to f8 check. So this would already be quite the advantage for Carlsen. But okay, after queen to d7, Carlsen goes for queen to b3. We have knight to f6 and rook to d3 with a tempo on the queen, and queen to g4. Bishop to e3, and this was definitely the critical moment in the game. Here, actually, the best idea for black is to block this with bishop to d4. And after a move like f3, attacking the queen can't capture, because simply bishop captures, there's an attack on the queen, you just lost the piece. So after f3, queen to d7, actually. And after h6, g captures on h6, and king to b1. White would definitely have the advantage here, but black could maybe hold on. For example, queen to e7, you do have to get the queen out of the way, since c3 is a big threat. And after bishop captures, pawn captures, and rook captures, you would be up against two passed pawns. But you know, maybe black could hold this. But after bishop to e3, Kasimdzhanov didn't go for bishop d4. He played bishop captures on e3. Carlsen played knight captures on e3. This comes with a tempo on the queen, and queen captures on e4. And this queen captures on e4 was actually a pretty big blunder, but it's very hard to find a move for black in this position. Here Carlsen played queen to e6. This comes with check. King to b8 was played, and now h6. You can't capture, you lose the knight on f6. So Kasimdzhanov tried queen to h1 with check. Another idea was maybe rook to e8, but this doesn't help you. Okay, this does come with a tempo on the queen, but simply queen to d6. This is with check. King moves, and now simply h captures on g7. And now you're threatening to capture the knight. If you move the knight to any square, then queen to d7 will pick up the rook on e8. It's a winning position for white. So after h6, Kasimdzhanov tried queen to h1 with check. Rook to d1 blocking, again with a tempo on the queen, and now queen captures on h6, but this doesn't help. Carlsen simply played queen captures on c6, and in this position, and this is move 25, so definitely a miniature, Rustam Kasimdzhanov resigned the game. What would follow, as you can see, there's really no move for black. The queen is really controlling the knight here. The knight can't really jump to any squares. If you try and develop with something like rook to c8, simply queen b6 check, king a8, now queen captures, king b8, queen captures on b5, and after something like king to a7, then rook comes to d6, again blocking the knight. The threat is rook to a6 checkmate. There's really only one way to stop this. For example, queen h1 check, knight blocks, and now queen to b7. This does stop checkmate, but simply queen check, king b8, and rook to b6 wins the queen and the game. And this is just one variation, but this is the best defense for black. Any other defense loses a lot quicker than this. So this was a well-played game by Magnus Carlsen, and he after that loss in round 1, he got to 3.5 points, and after 5 rounds, he's currently in 22nd place. First and second place is shared between Jobava Badur with 4.5 points, and Vladimir Fedoseev, followed by I think 10 or 11 players with 4 points. So it's definitely going to be an interesting day 2 and especially day 3, since anything can happen. This doesn't really mean anything. Any player can win this event. And it's a lot of you have requested the game Vishwanath Anand versus Peter Leko, so I will definitely show that game next, but everyone feel free to suggest any game you enjoyed from the World Rapid Championship. Just use hashtag suggestion and I will show it. And I would like to thank everyone for sending me your photos and videos of you teaching someone else chess. There's still time until New Year's, so there will be the email in the description below. So any of you that still decide to do it are welcome to send me your photos and videos for me to mix together in one big New Year's video. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Arad Nasor Arfaya and Luigi Colayani for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Both of them will be from the World Rapid Championship. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon.